Hi, so this is me, Daniel, again, and now we're going to start with assignment 2. So this is a short video description. It doesn't replace the written description of the assignment, but I think it might be a good idea for you to get a video introduction to the assignment, so to not miss any important part. So the assignment is, you can do this assignment in the first task of this assignment in groups of 1, 2, 3, or 4 students. The thing here is that if you're only one student, you're supposed to put around 20 hours of testing of this product. If you're 2 students, it's 2 times 20 hours. It's 3 students, 4 students, 80 hours of testing. So you need to produce, in order to do this, you need to do a lot more work also. So it's not that you divide the work with 4, it's more like multiplying the work by 4. So it might be a good idea, since 80 hours is hard to put down, to split a group of 4 students into 2 groups of 2 students and work with this assignment. So the assignment is about it's about taking a legacy code product, an old product, taking a new scenario and see if that product is fit for the scenario or not. And in this case, it might be, it might not be, and there is a lot of different things in between. So I've tried to create this scenario in such a way that you can do a lot of different types of testing, and you can come up with a lot of different types of conclusions. So let's go through it a little bit. So you're supposed to think of a testing strategy. A testing strategy is really, okay, how are we going to use all these hours in order to test our product, more or less. A testing strategy could be that, okay, we're going to do some part of manual testing, and we're going to do some automated testing, and then we're going to focus on some other types of tests. And you will be given requirements and also source code. And I want you to plan out the testing so that we can see that you've actually spent so many hours on different things. And one of the mandatory things that should be in every one of these is that you're supposed to write manual test cases for this product. And you're supposed to actually test the product also. And finally, report the results. And this is going to be reported in different documents, and I think task 2 describes this quite well, what's supposed to be in what document, but let's have a discussion on Slack also. So the goals is really to do a lot of different types of testing and learn about it, and read other people's plans and consider it if their testing was okay. Okay, there is some theory that you probably should read up on. So let's go to the first assignment, or the first task in the assignment. And this task is the only one that you should do in groups. For the other 2 tasks, you're supposed to do those individually. So we have a small scenario, and the scenario is just made up, and sort of the scenario gives you some requirements, what your company or your imaginary company has some requirements, and they're fussily written. And the reason for that is to give you an opportunity to interpret these, extract requirements from these, and think as a tester. Use your prefrontal cortex and find interesting ways of testing this product. And I mean, different groups may come up with different conclusions here, and that is fine as long as everyone does testing, because focus is on testing, not on what is the correct requirement for this one. Then you also have the legacy things, and these are the requirements and source code. So legacy things are requirement description. And this was sort of, you should think of this as written by the original developers of the web server. And that doesn't mean that these are relevant anymore for the scenario that you have here. So the software development company, SDC, which you work with, might not care for Windows Vista or XP or something like that, because this is a legacy system. It's an old thing. So you can read through these and you can find out, okay, this is probably relevant for the SDC and this is not relevant, and then you decide on these. So you need to, in order to test something, you need to understand the product and how it's supposed to be used. But let's say that it's a good sign if the product fulfills the requirement as stated in the requirement specification, then we perhaps trust the developers of this product. And it's a small web server. And most of you have probably touched a web server sometime in your education, and perhaps you haven't. But really, it's a file provider that provides file through an HTTP protocol over the internet. And it has different types of requirements. It has these non-functional requirements. It should be responsible under high load. What does that even mean? You decide what that means for the scenario that you are supposed to. So, and these are also written to allow you to do different kinds of testing. So the responsiveness testing could be something that, okay, let's put this web server on high load and then let's see how responsive it is. How does it manage to steal a response or not? And conformance testing, perhaps for their HTTP 1.1, and to test this on different platforms, and yeah, some source code or checking that the source code is released on GPL2 and stuff like that. Please note that not everything in this requirement, in this original requirement, might actually work in the product. I mean, this is a legacy product, and at some point perhaps the requirements and the product has diverged from each other, or at some points it might be that the developers are not finished. There might be missing features, there might be things that are buggy and things like that. Yeah, and there is. And then you have a couple of use cases, and I mean, these use cases are probably good to like go through and create scenarios and then create manual test cases for these scenarios. So it's pretty much the start web server and stop web server and request to shared resource, and then with some alternate scenarios. So find these scenarios and cover these in your manual test cases, the relevant ones at least. Okay, and then you get the actual source code and thing here. And here, I mean, this is not super easy to interpret everything. I mean, this was abandonware by some random developer, me. So let's see if you can get this started. It's a Java application. Perhaps you've not really used Java before. To get you up and running, you can always like use the Java to compile and run it by the description. Let's see if you get it started. Let's ask for help if you don't. I mean, there are a lot of people in this class that are really good at Java, so probably better than me. Oh, there is a folder called tests. I wonder what that might be. So if the original developers did some testing, perhaps we can check out their results from that testing and report that also. I mean, if they have done work, then we don't need to do that. If there are, let's say, if this is a Java project, then probably what's in this one is JUnit test. Yay! So let's run these JUnit tests. Let's see how much of the code they cover. Let's see if they fail or pass, or which tests are failing and why they are failing. And let's report that as part of your assignment. I mean, yeah. So okay, that was sort of the resources that you got. And then you have a to-do list. So write a test strategy for the application. Okay, how am I going to do this? At least you're supposed to run them, or create manual test cases and run those. Write a test plan. So a plan is who does what, when, and for how long. So if you're several people who's supposed to do something, what are they supposed to do? How long should it take? What should they do with the results? And then you write manual test cases that it's sort of minimum requirements. If you let's say you have a group of 4, then you need to be inventive and really make sure that you can do this for 80 hours and thoroughly test this web server. Execute the test plan means that you actually test the software, you do what you're supposed to do in the test plan, and then you report this in a test report. And I mean, a lot of these are in this system testing lectures. Then you're supposed to create a couple of PDFs, and then you're supposed to produce a zip file and put those in, and then we're going to have a peer review of the end result. There are some rules. Always read this through. In your reports and stuff like that, you should be anonymous, so don't put your name in it anywhere. So instead use role names when you divide work amongst the different roles, like test lead or scrum master or product owner and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, you can make this up. All students in the group should upload the exact same document. That means the exact same zip file. So you're not supposed to produce different types of the same PDFs, but zip them yourself. So let one student zip this, and let everyone else upload this. And if you update the document or resubmit, all students must do the same. Otherwise, you look like you're working in different groups, and then we can, yeah, then it looks like you're not supposed to. And I think that in the upload, in the peer review system, you can actually see if there is more than one student who have uploaded the same. So I think so. Yeah, okay. Read the review task in order to find out about how to write a successful. And I mean, task 2, which is an individual task, describes how to review other groups' work. So let's just see what sort of review you're supposed to do, and that means how you're supposed to lay out and think when you write your PDFs. So I mean, you should review clarity, and that means language should be English. Issues can be related to spelling or grammar. It should have a nice format and layout. It should be easy to read. It should use tables, links, titles, different levels when appropriate, which means that depends on what's in your document, how you present it, but it should be readable. You should divide your work into different chapters. You should think of the disposition. So you should be able to read this from the top to the bottom and not read the bottom first to understand the top and stuff like that. Divide it into paragraphs. I mean, everything for clarity. And then completeness. I mean, these are things that I want you to check that you've actually got into the document when you produce your document. So, for instance, test strategy. Does test strategy describe stakeholders and their testing goals? And that means that, okay, who are the stakeholders here? So what are the people in SDC? What are the customers? What are the regulations? Perhaps regulations and stuff like that. And then if you don't understand one of these, let's discuss these in Slack. So I think that taking the time going through all of these in your group or on your own before you start is going to give you a good idea on how to do this. Okay, so the different documents should contain answers to a lot of different questions. And then finally, the content is supposed to be reviewed also. So Has the other group done a good job testing the product, given the resources? So after you've done this assignment, then you're sort of an expert of testing this particular web server. Then you should be the best person to judge another group's test effort. So if there are like 2 people on that other group and you're just alone, perhaps they should have done double amount of testing than you did. Okay, so when we talk about double amount of testing, so sort of some of the learning is excluded from the 20 hours per student. So let's talk about that. So I think that 20 hours of testing is what you're supposed to do. You can easily spend more than 20 hours just learning about some testing technique and tool and stuff like that. And that time does not really count in the 20 hours, so to speak. Just to make sure that you don't have a test report where you didn't do any testing, you say that I spent 20 hours learning. So you're really supposed to test this also. But you, I mean, this is an assignment in your education, so focus on learning. Yeah. Okay, the third task is then at some point in the future, you will receive the reviews from other groups, and you will have a deadline when you need to respond to these reviews. So you should receive and respond to reviews given to you, and you're also not really grading but scoring these reviews that you got. So was this a helpful review and stuff like that. And then there is a grading scheme for this, and pretty much the grading scheme says that the grade is divided in 2 parts. So the first part is the grade you get for your report, and the second part is the grade you get for writing reviews, your reviewer score. And the more reviews you write, the higher chance you get of getting a good reviewer score. And the grade is the average between these 2 scores. So for E grade, the minimum is that you write 2 peer reviews, and they both must be approved. So you're not supposed to like, this was good, and then send, because that is not a proper review. A proper review, you read through the entire work of the other student, and then you think of different levels, and you go through all these questions that were in task 2, and you try to help the other group to become better testers and better report writers. For D, you need 3 reviews. For C, you also need 3 reviews, but more of these must be on a higher level. And for B, you need 4 reviews, and for A, you need 4 reviews, but they should be excellent, right? So you check these out and ask questions on Slack if there is anything that you don't understand or want to discuss. I mean, discussions are fun. So see you on Slack.